The sound of praise for your Sunday morning.
The only one who could ever teach me.
Introducing Reverend A.R. Bernard of the Christian Cultural Center.
Was the son of a preacher man.
And Rabbi Joseph Potasnik of Religion on the Line.
The only one who could ever teach me.
Now, on Talk Radio 77 WABC, here's the Rev and the Rabbi, where faith matters.
Good morning, I'm Rabbi Joseph Potasnik.
And I'm Reverend A.R. Bernard.
Reverend, we have another career to pursue because former Mayor Mike Bloomberg has just given $1 billion to Johns Hopkins for free tuition at medical school. So you and I are now going to be going to medical school.
Well, if you make
I can get in. You're going to have a problem,
if you make under $300,000,
yeah, all right. So one of us qualifies
you're
here.
You're good.
Well, you know what? He's a charitable guy. We know him over the years, and giving is in his DNA. What he does for so many others, and go to Israel. The family name is on Hadassah Hospital and so many other projects here in New York. Bloomberg is synonymous with so many charitable initiatives. He's there for many people.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's a wonderful individual in terms of how he has opened his heart and his pocketbook.
Yeah, and he's in the office every day. He hasn't retired. Yep. He's in the office every day.
And of course, that $1 billion was given to his alma mater.
Yeah, Johns Hopkins. Yep.
Yeah.
So, Rev, I received a note the other day from one of our listeners, and she was very angry about a comment that had been made, in this case about President Biden. Someone had called him a vegetable from the other side. And she said she had a father who suffered with, cognitive decline, and she resents the fact that anybody would refer to someone in that state as a vegetable. And I thought to myself, it's wrong, it's offensive. On the other side, you have people referring to Trump as Hitler and all kinds of, the name, the coarseness of language, the rejection of civility, the inability to talk about issues and rather than target individuals and, go after a certain deficiency, or just name calling in general for something that in no way relates to who they are is not where we need to be. We need to think a little bit higher than that.
Absolutely, Rabbi. There has been a progressive desensitization of our society when it comes to empathy, when it comes to civility, when it comes to order, etiquette, respect, honor. There were just certain boundaries that I grew up with as a kid that you just didn't cross. And now it's the wild, wild west. It's almost anything goes. And we're in a situation where we're about to choose the next president of the United States, who's going to lead not only our nation, but the leader of, the most powerful nation in the free world. That is a big deal. But I think we have to still work within certain parameters of respect and civility.
We use this phrase cognitive decline, and I think so many suffer from that, a different kind of cognitive decline. They should know better than to behave this way. They were taught differently than to act this way. So cognitive decline, I think, has another meaning in terms of the dumbing down, as Moynihan would talk about, of people and doing that they really shouldn't be doing. And as exemplars for younger people, then they really should be ashamed of what they're doing. So on both sides, this is not the domain of one particular side. It's on the left, it's on the right, it's Democrat, it's Republican. Why don't we, at least we as faith leaders, have a responsibility to say, you are held to a higher standard. And when you deviate from it, you should be called out on it.
Absolutely. And Rabbi, I got a problem with some of the hypocrisy. I'll just put it out there because, you're sitting in the audience as a journalist and you're pointing out Joe Biden, the president's, memory fails And yet you're asking him questions from your phone because you don't remember all the questions.
Yeah.
So what's the story here?
And you knew about the other maybe call it hypocrisy or call it hiding. You knew about some of these challenges that he faced before.
Yeah.
Where were you for the last few years? Now you raise the issue because maybe there are a few more press conferences or there's a debate, but you saw problems and you didn't say anything about it. And if you talk about responsibility to the public, where were you?
Yeah. And look, I have my concerns because of a very specific set of values that I hold, and I have concerns about the direction that both parties are going in. And it's a tough situation for the American public right now because they have to elect, the next leader of our nation.
Yeah.
It's tough.
I hear some who are so disenchanted with what is happening. They're saying, I'm not voting. And I'm saying
I got a problem with that.
Yeah, that's a disaster. Apathy takes over, then you're going to find a person getting elected will probably be not the one you really wanted, or maybe, the lesser of the two, and you're partly responsible for that election because you didn't participate at all. Yeah.
You can't fail to participate and then curse the results.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
You got to ask, which is better? Who is better? That's the question you ask. Because this idea of
that's a tough question, Rabbi. Right?
That's where we are. By the way, we're going to have two great guests on. I saw a sign. I was walking to the studio, and it said, "The best things in life are not things." And I thought to myself, how true that is. It's people who matter most, not the things that matter most. We have two people coming on who have really mattered to so many people over the years. Linden. Well known for his performance in Barney Miller and on Broadway stage and movie stage, and Marilu Henner, who has done it all, right? Also in the theater, in the movies, as an author, as a lecturer. So and they're at the Sheen Center, a great cultural treasure here in New York City.
Yeah, so stay tuned. We've got some theater gold waiting for you when we come back.
Where faith matters. The Rev and the Rabbi. Talk Radio 77 WABC.
Welcome back. I'm Rabbi Joseph Potasnik.
And I'm Reverend A.R. Bernard.
Reverend, I have found in life that there are people who attain greatness professionally, but they don't amass goodness personally. There are those who have the goodness personally, but don't have the greatness professionally. We have two people today who have synthesized those two worlds. They are both great and they are both good. And I'm talking about Marilu Henner and Linden. You may remember Marilu Henner has done it all, as they say. She's been on Broadway, shows including Broadway, The Tale of the Allergist's Wife. She has 5 Golden Globe nominations. New York Times best-selling author of 10 books. She has spoken before Congress. And Linden, who many of us remember as Barney Miller, the police precinct captain, that was on TV from 1975 to 1982. He's been on Broadway. Debut is The Bells Are Ringing. I saw him in one of the shows on Broadway. It was the Rothschilds where I saw him. And he's been in many, many films. He's also been in a film with Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon. It really is a great privilege to have the two of you with us. And now they're at the Sheen Center, where Rev, you and I serve on the board. And the name of the production is The Journals of Adam and Eve.
Ooh.
So it has a biblical theme, and it's running through the 28th. And Marilu and I think the highlight of your career will be on the 18th of July when I do a talk back with you at the theater. Now you know you've made it.
Is leading up to that day, so I'm very excited.
Let me just say this. Rev and I often talk, Bishop Fulton Sheen. We remember him because, he had that.
Chicago.
Yeah. He was on opposite Milton Berle.
I remember.
But he was the most popular show in Chicago where I grew up. And his niece, Marty, her name was, maybe that was her nickname. When I was 9 years old, I did a production of The King and I at Loyola University. My sister was playing Anna, the lead, and Marty was one of the wives, and I played her daughter, Princess Ying Yaolas. And she and I, totally bonded. And, she was always like, oh, yeah, she's Fulton Sheen's niece and everything. So I feel very connected to the Sheen Center.
That's a great treasure in New York City. And thank you to
and
Mary.
By the way, Rabbi, he was the first real televangelist. You see, the Catholics. Yeah. It wasn't the Protestants. It was the Catholics.
So for the younger,
and he was the real deal.
He was very handsome. So he was very telegenic and had a wonderful way of speaking.
And for the younger people listening, the theater is not named for Martin Sheen or Charlie Sheen. It's Bishop Fulton Sheen. Yeah.
We didn't have a television set yet. I don't think so. We didn't watch him or Milton Berle.
Yeah. So let me ask you: you've achieved so much. Why the Sheen Center now? Why this production at this time in your lives?
Well, I can go first, or you can go first. You go first.
First of all, that's what we do. I think eventually what we do defines us. And I remember a long time ago when I was really busy during Barney, somebody asked me, don't you ever take a vacation? I was so into everything. I told them I took all my vacations from 1960 to 1967. We referred to it as unemployment at the time. So I think the point is that when you, at least for me, I'll speak for myself. I define myself by what I accomplish, what I do. I don't accomplish much sitting on a couch watching television or playing golf. So I look forward to starting from scratch. That's the joy when there's nothing there but words on a page, and you as a human being try to make another human being live. I suspect that it's one of the great things about being an actor is that you get to experience so many different people's lives, their hopes, their dreams, what they're willing to do to accomplish what they want to accomplish. It's a very liberalizing experience because you experience so much more than just your own existence. You experience everybody's. I've walked in so many moccasins over the years, and when you get the opportunity to do it, particularly when you get the opportunity to do it in a vehicle that's got humor and humanity in it, you look forward to it and you grab it. That I don't care how old you are.
And for me, I love being on stage. I grew up in a dancing school. I was on stage at 2.5 years old. Live theater is it's what I love most. And that's why I do my club act all over the country. And I loved Taxi because it was really approached as a stage play. And we shaped it all week. And then we performed it in front of an audience. So there was that feedback. So any opportunity I have to be on stage, I look for that. Since the pandemic started, I not only shot 16 movies because I work with Hallmark a lot and a lot of independents and stuff, but I've been able to do 5 plays. And this is one of them. And I jumped at the chance because Hal and I had worked together years ago in the Broadway show Chicago. We did it in Las Vegas together. And Ed Weinberger, who wrote this piece, he and I spent 5 years together on Taxi because he's one of the original writers and executive producers. So when I read this, and it was Hal's idea, not Ed's idea that I play this part, we just, have a nice chemistry. Everybody keeps talking about the chemistry. Every review we've gotten has talked about how our chemistry jumps off the stage. All my friends, all the Taxi gang was there last night. It was a couple days ago for the opening. And it's been, I just love performing any chance I get to be in front of an audience. And every night is different because the audience informs your performance and you get to shape it as you're going along. And you might do one line and then, something else. It's the life of being in present time with a piece. And that's one of the things I love about it.
It's live.
It's live. Yeah.
Yeah. Guys, I'm a history buff, so let's start with you, Hal. You grew up in the Bronx, New York. What was life like in the Bronx growing up? And of course, Marilu, you're Chicago born. What was life like in those early days?
The Bronx, one would think that having been born and bred in New York City, I would have come from a cosmopolitan community and be so hip and so aware. The Bronx, where I grew up, was was as bad as Peoria. It was simplistic. It was and simple. I remember specifically that from my front door, the stoop, the house I lived in, you could see to the left the water tower on the top of a movie theater about 6-8 blocks away. And from the right, you could see the top of the telephone building also about 6 or 8 blocks away. I grew up thinking that beyond those 2 points, you fell off the earth. That was the end. That was it. It was an immigrant community, diverse, Italian, Irish, and Jewish, and we coexisted beautifully. Maybe protected, shall we say, from the realities of the world. Let me put it this way: I never spoke to a black person until I got into high school.
Wow.
About that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But it was true. Yeah. And it was, I didn't really see the world until high school. So it was a strange, but very protected youth.
And that's a New York phenomena, that it could actually happen in a city like New York, where communities are enclosed and some are open, and you could have that kind of experience. People wouldn't believe that, but it's true. Marilu?
Yes. Well, I grew up in Chicago, in the heart of the city, right next door to a Catholic church, and my family felt like we had backstage passes to Catholicism because the church was the spiritual center, but we were the cultural center, because we had a dancing school in our garage with 200 students between the ages of 2 and 80, including the nuns from the Catholic school next door who came over for stretch classes. But that wasn't enough for my mother. She also ran a beauty shop out of our kitchen with about 25 women from the neighborhood who came over to get their hair done, and she'd go over to the convent and cut the nuns' hair. On Sunday, my father would drive them to different parishes around Chicago, and I'd always take the ride because I got to sing in the car for them. I'd do Ethel Merman, I'd do Julie Andrews, I'd do whomever. And my mother also took them bra shopping at Vassarette. Okay, that's how connected we were. But then my uncle lived upstairs with 10 cats, 2 dogs, 2 birds, a skunk, 150 fish, and his boyfriend Charles, and he taught art at the Catholic grammar school next door. And after school, he had art classes going on. So we had the dancing school in the backyard, the beauty shop in the kitchen, the art classes going on upstairs. My uncle was also the neighborhood astrologist, and he ran a cat hospital on our roof. So we were very connected in every way.
Yeah, doesn't sound like a protected childhood there.
Yeah, no, so show business just always seemed like a natural progression. Yeah. People always say, oh, what is it like to feel like you're famous, blah, blah, blah. And I go, no, I felt more famous in my neighborhood because, because we were the dancing school. I always say that most kids had their first kiss somewhere on our property, not that we had a big property, but somewhere, it's like, because my mother taught teenagers on Friday nights, but we taught tap, ballet, jazz, social dancing, all kinds of things. And as soon as you were 14, she put you to work and you taught a class. So I grew up, just being very independent and very connected to show business.
Yeah. And I grew up totally away from show business. I was a music student from the age of like 7, and I never set foot on a stage through high school or college, or even into the Army. I had no show business background. I didn't even go to the theater.
Wow. So living in New York too. Wow.
So how I accidentally tripped into being an actor, I'll never know.
So we're all familiar with the story of Adam and Eve, and obviously the wardrobe expenditure is minimal on your budget there. But talk about the story on the stage as opposed to the story we read in the Bible, with similarities, differences.
Well, I think it depends on who puts it on the paper. John Milton wrote the poetic version, Paradise Lost.
Right.
Mark Twain wrote the folksy version in the Diary of Adam and Eve, and Harnack and Bach did the musical version in the Apple Tree. And here's Ed Weinberger. He wrote the funny version. He wrote the contemporary version. The story of Adam and Eve is the story of man and woman, and how men and women have interreacted over the centuries. And he's brought every contemporary problem, if you will, to that relationship.
Yeah,
so
it's interesting because it's like, Eve is very feisty. My character is very feisty, which is one of the things I love about her. So she's not, she's not just listening to him all the time. She challenges him. He asks for an assistant, and I show up. So it's really interesting. But it's funny that you're saying that everybody knows the story of Adam and Eve, because some people really don't. And in fact, my niece and nephew are coming, and I said to my sister, because they're staying with her last night, they're going to stay with me tonight, and I said that we should explain to them a little bit, because otherwise they're going to be totally confused by some of it. So I think that it's sort of I think people will fall in love with the story even if they don't know Adam and Eve. And people who know Adam and Eve will fall in love with the twists and turns and the comedy and the sort of the modernizing of the story.
First of all, there are many stories of Adam and Eve, depending on which Bible you read and what version of it. But also there's the element of faith and skepticism between the two. And I think it resonates to today.
Oh, I think people will definitely have a lot to say at the talkback. The pinnacle of our careers on July the 18th.
Exactly.
Going to run at the talkback. So I think that people who see the show will just, will have something to say.
There'll be a lot of questions. Oh, yeah.
A lot of questions, a lot of why did they say this? I think it's going to be a very provocative, fun, and, you can deliver any kind of message as long as you do it with heart and humor. And I think that this show has it in spades. It's incredible.
Humor and humanity.
Yeah. For sure.
Reverend Bernard here, a question for you, because I'm curious. Does the show go up to the actual eviction from the garden? And if so, who was blamed? Who was blamed for the eviction? Adam or Eve?
Well,
the answer in advance there, Rev. Come on.
Come and see.
You'll have to come and see. We go way past you.
Way past you.
Cain and Abel, we go everything. Seth, all of it.
Wow. But so let me ask you a question. Do you wrestle through some of the identity and equality issues of our day when it comes to men and women, male and female?
I think so. Definitely.
That's the point. I think Adam, we give Adam the point of view that this creature, he calls it for a long time, because humanity. She's just his assistant, called upon to help him name animals, and that has to be worked out between the two of them.
Absolutely.
As to who is whoeth and what is whateth.
It's interesting. I was reading a commentary one day about the story of the Garden of Eden, and Adam blames Eve, Eve blames the serpent. And it says one of the messages of that story is to teach us about responsibility, because none of the parties was willing to accept responsibility.
Of course not.
Right? It was always.
If you can avoid responsibility, it's a lot easier in this world.
It's like a hot potato. It's like you want to pass it.
Yeah, so it wasn't just about eating an apple. It was about just always excusiology. Was one of the messages there. Find an excuse not to be blamed. Go after the other person. And as Hal just said, it's a great place to be for some people.
Yeah. Oh, well, because I've been in Al-Anon because of, my first husband and other people that I've known. And, there's always that blame, shame, and regret. And there's it's human. It's one of the big things that we as people tend to live in one of them, or guilt or whatever. So, yeah.
Wow.
I love what you said about blame, shame, and regret, because we live in a society. Because we live in a society in a time where shaming is part of what's done, especially social media. We had a situation where we were dealing with young people who were in crisis because they were being shamed on social media, and it's all over the place.
Shaming never works. It never does. And so, it's a new world right away, and, nowadays. And I have two sons who are in their 28 and 29, and they've got a completely different take on things in life than the men I grew up with, for sure. And so, it's nice to see that the world is changing and that people are taking more responsibility for their words, their actions, the way they label people, the way they refer to things. So it's good. It's good that this is happening.
Let's take a moment. I'm sorry.
Pendulum to swing and find its right balance.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Sheen Center. Here you have a cultural center connected, of course, to the Archdiocese of New York, that has such diversity, that offers programming for all. And, here, I'm a Jew, Reverend is Christian. We sit on the board. There's absolutely no conflict. We're there for a common cause. And I think that says a lot about where we are, or where we should be, in terms of finding common ground.
Yes, absolutely. My second husband was Jewish, and he passed away last year. I'm on my third and final, but my boys are half Jewish, and so it's a different world, and it's great that people are getting along better. It's not, those lines of demarcation aren't as strong as they were when I was growing up.
Yeah. How do you handle? Go ahead. I'm sorry, Hal. Yeah,
I just
Hal,
want
go
to
ahead.
say that I'm not a practicing Jew, but I have an immense admiration for what churches teach in terms of morality and behavior, community, all the good things that we're supposed to be doing. I don't spend all that much time on the other aspects of religion, but certainly we need that kind of moral leadership that we're seriously lacking today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We need an anchor for the soul to protect us from what we can become as human beings when our humanity runs out. So what, Marilu, this is to you. So what was it like for your children to grow up in a home where one parent is Jewish and the other parent, I believe your background is Greek and Polish?
Greek and Polish. I'm half Greek, half Polish, although I wasn't Greek Catholic. I was, I think my mother moved, my oldest sister she was baptized in the Greek faith. And then when my mother moved into the neighborhood where we lived next door to a church, then we all became Catholic. We were all baptized. We went to Catholic school. I went to Catholic school from the time I was 5 years old in kindergarten until I graduated from high school. I went to Madonna High School, an all-girls Catholic school, where I got the best education and everything. And I'll always be grateful for my Catholic background, And so in my family, my husband, my second husband, the father of my boys, he really let me, we celebrated everything, but we mostly celebrated the Catholic holidays. And so he loved the Jewish traditions and things, but we celebrated more the Catholic side.
My wife was not Jewish, and I raised 4 children who are now half and half. But she ended up being the one who did all the holidays. So we had Christmas, and she was the one who pulled out the menorah every year and lit the candles. So it was we came from a where it's eclectic. It's like we were like the board at the Sheen Center.
Yeah. Rev, I was talking with Hal the other day, and my first question was, who bar mitzvahed you? And he said, there was a student rabbi named Grauer. He said, I don't know if you know the name. I said, sure, it was Murray Grauer from the Bronx and went to White Plains years later. But it was just nice, to reminisce.
You really stunned me when you came up with that. I hadn't seen Rabbi Grauer in 70 years or so, 80 years. So I suspect he had a terrific career, yes.
Yeah. But you know what comes across also from both of you? You didn't hide your identity. You know, we have people who think in order to achieve fame, they have to camouflage who they are.
Well,
if the name Hal Linden, I don't think you could do a whole lot of camouflage. But, you know, there are those, you know, who run away from it, who think if I discard it, disguise it, I will climb a lot higher. And I understand that in a time when, you know, you were discriminated against because of your faith.
And I did not change my name, by the way, for the theater. I changed my name because I intended to be a big band leader. And the term swing and sway with Harold Lipschitz just didn't work.
But my father changed his name. My father and his brother changed their name. It was Podwowski because they were Polish, and they took the name of their basketball coach long before I was born. And so he and his brother John changed their name to Henner because they just loved their coach, and they just felt like they didn't have a great relationship with their dad.
It was also a different world. Yeah. It was a different world. You were treated according to your name, and if it had a wits at the end or a ski at the end, it was a problem.
Yeah. I appreciate you being open about that, Rabbi. I was going to ask the same question because at that time in America, you know, in order to be successful, you'd have to make certain adjustments, and there are very big names like George Burns and others that, you know, were truncated or adjusted. Yeah.
You had to. It had to do with assimilation. When the big Jewish immigration wave came in the end of the 19th and early 20th century, there was an organization called Hayas. I think it may still be around.
Yeah, it is. The Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society,
Right, and the first thing they did was try to integrate, not only help them get settled, but to integrate them. The first thing they did was teach them English and try to Americanize them so that they would. And it was wonderful, but it was also, in a sense, denying one's culture and maybe even frightened the immigrants into hiding.
Yeah.
So, it was a product of its time.
Yeah. You know, Reverend Bernard and I have discussions looking back at our careers, and we're still very, very active. And I
thought you were going to say very young. I'm sorry. Yeah. Go ahead. Active
I didn't want to shame you, but I
like active.
I about shaming. Yeah. But, you know, we don't regret.
What's shame of age?
Yeah. We are very proud of what we've done, what we are doing. I wouldn't want it any differently. You know, people look back, well, if I could do it again, I would do this. I wouldn't change anything. I feel fulfilled in what and I sense from talking to both of you that there is that gratification you feel for what you've done and what you are doing.
It certainly is, but let me tell you something. There are a few things I would have done differently.
You want to confess, or we don't? we don't do that, Hal. We don't do that.
We handle that.
Yeah. We bring a lawyer. We don't do that kind of thing.
You're in the confessional these days. That's interesting.
Yeah. So,
what was the greatest experience? What role really challenged you the most and left the greatest memory?
Well, don't ask me that question because I remember every day of my life. So we don't that. But, you know, I mean, for me, and maybe because I just saw the guys the other day, Taxi was just one of a kind. I mean, it was just so special. We're such a family. We go to each other's events. We see each other all the time. We do Zooms every couple of months. And, you know, I'm very connected to all of them. So that was kind of a one of a kind. But I've done 7 Broadway. I've done a lot of work, and I just keep working. And I love writing the books and stuff. But if I had to pick one thing, I would say Taxi.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it when people come up to me and say, I love John Barney Miller, or I saw you in the Rothschilds, and I really appreciate it. But what really gets me is when someone says, I saw you in a play in Philadelphia, a play which died in Philadelphia, and they appreciate that performance because you put the same work into every project. You invest the same sweat and tears and love into every character that you create. So I won't pick one over another. They're all part of my creativity, if you will, part of my life, and some are more successful than others.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that.
And also, there are some jobs that you do where the people make such a difference in the way you experience the entire, the entire job. And also the location. So, so many different things. So, when I think about the answer to your question, that's why, when I'm such a family girl. I grew up with 6 brothers and sisters in that crazy household with parents who were very much in love with each other. And as soon as he came home from work, we'd run to see where she was because we knew he was going to dip her in a dance position, and they were very vibrant with each other, and probably that's why kids. And so because of it, I'm sure. And so because of it, anytime that I can create a family with a group of people, that's what I like. I like that family feeling. So I think everybody has a filter through which they live their lives, and my filter or prism or whatever you want to call it, the essence of who I am is creating a family. And that's what I love about show business, is that with each job, you get the opportunity to create a family.
That's true.
And it's really wonderful.
Yes.
I want to ask you about the script. When the Rev and I offer a sermon, we don't memorize it. We know the message we want to convey, but, we're free to change sentences, language, how we get there. How much license do you have when it comes to a script? I remember seeing 2 by 2 with Danny Kaye years ago.
Oh, boy.
And he would ad lib it, and it would throw people off, right?
Yeah. Robin Williams
was not looked upon very not only by the authors but the theatrical community. We think of a play as a common experience. Everybody contributes. Everybody's part of it. The writers, the director, the lighting people, everybody, and their work should not be ignored by anyone
ego.
Anyone's ego.
Yeah.
I remember Danny was not looked upon well by the theatrical community. Yeah. And by the way,
go ahead.
In answer to your question, by the way, it depends upon the author. If you have a living author, it depends upon his personality. Ed Weinberger is open. He's written his lines.
Changes all the time.
Specifically,
every night.
But we are reading from the journals and telling it to the audience. So sometimes the exact words change. We say it a different way. We always stick with what he's trying to tell the audience. Yes. But sometimes it comes out a little differently, and Ed is open to that if it doesn't step on a joke or change the meaning.
Right. I've done both. I've worked with both Jules Feiffer and Neil Simon, and there's a rhythm to the way they both write that if you miss it, it's very obviously off. So you can tell as the actor when you've missed a certain syllable or something, the meter of it. It's almost like music, and so it as Hal said, it always depends on the author. And if we're changing our script every day because this is something that I think can live on and on and on like love letters. You could have any age group do it. You could have, there's so many different, it lends itself to a unique experience for those two people.
I don't even think they have to be professionals. I think eventually will be done in every church basement
and synagogue.
And synagogue.
For sure, no.
Because it's easy.
My third and final husband, Michael, he is a brilliant businessman. He is the number one calendar publisher in the world. He is not an actor. And I had him reading lines with me, and it works. I mean, I thought, Michael, oh my gosh, you almost sound like an actor because they're writing it so. And it's also the tropes of relationships.
Yes.
So when we're like fighting in the scene, I mean, he was right there. It was perfect because it sounded like us. So, yeah.
Let me ask you a question, guys. I really respect the amount of time and effort that goes into your work, especially when I think about you getting into the character. Have you ever identified so deeply with a character that it took you some time to recover from that character?
Oh, well, I mean, the character, and it's funny that I just mentioned Jules Pfeiffer. The character that I played that was most unlike me was the character of Bobby Templeton from Carnal Knowledge. I did the play of that, and Anne Margaret played her in the movie, and I played her in the play, and it was like, because the character is suicidal, and that is so far from my personality, it's like, I had to go to like really dark places, because then she presents herself as very light and sexy, but then there's this undercurrent. So that probably took the most emotional work on my part.
My wife always pointed out that whenever I came home from the theater, I carried the character home with me. So when I played the Rothschilds, I was the greatest father. But when I played when I was in the Apple Tree, I played the devil in the Adam and Eve story. I guess it came out differently. Yeah, no, I always bring home. I suspect that I am an amalgam of all the characters I ever played, as well as the characters were me. So
look, we just want to say thank you. Hal, to you. Get your bar mitzvah at 13. You're entitled to a second bar mitzvah at 83 because 70 years is considered the generation. I want to do the next bar mitzvah for you.
Okay. When he turns 83.
When I turn 83. Sorry you missed it.
Yeah, well, look, listen, you've enriched our lives. And Marilu, the joie de vivre, the energy you have, as well as Hal, is so inspiring to us.
Thank you.
Because, people
we call
often...
it energy in my family. We do. We call it energy. We go, we got a lot of energy in this room today.
keep doing it. Keep continuing. And just we're grateful to you, not just for being here today, but for all the years that you blessed us with your talent. And Sheen is very, very, very privileged to have you, and we're very honored to be with you as well. So
thank you so much. Thanks for this opportunity.
Yeah. So Rabbi, we need to make the announcement. When is it taking place?
It's going through the 28th. It's going through the
28th of July. We opened last week on the 11th, and it's running really well. We're getting great reviews, so I hope everybody comes down to the Sheen Center and sees us. It's a beautiful little theater, and it's like such a cool neighborhood, and the show's only like an hour and 15 minutes long, which people love these days. So, yeah, we get
Listen, we understand that. Nobody ever complained that a sermon was too short. So we know about the hour and 15 minutes, but it's 18 Bleecker Street, and it's Wednesday through Saturdays at 7, matinees, Saturday and Sunday at 2. 18 Bleecker. Go to the Sheen Center website, www.sheencenter.org.
Yes.
What an honor this has been.
And it's funny. That's the point. It's funny.
Yeah.
We need more funny in this world.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, we need that. Thank you so much for being on the program and being as candid as you've been with your life story and obviously your joy. Thank you.
See you on the 18th. Get ready. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. And stay tuned. We'll be right back with more of the Rev and the Rabbi right here on 77 WABC.
Reverend A.R. Bernard, Rabbi Joseph Potasnik, the Rev and the Rabbi. Talk Radio 77 WABC and the all-new WABCRadio.com.
Welcome by Joseph Potasnik.
And I'm Reverend A.R. Bernard.
I always found it exhilarating when you can bring different worlds together. Here we are, the world of faith. At the same time, you can have a Sheen Center connected to the Archdiocese with a rabbi on the board. Here comes everybody. Having these two on, she's Christian, he's Jewish, and the chemistry between them is magnetic. Really was a wonderful one walk down memory lane, and they're still performing.
Yeah. I grew up on, because I watched Barney Miller, really enjoyed that faithfully, and of course Taxi. Those were the two things that stood out besides the Broadway performances. But it was a great interview.
Maybe the message is don't retire, recycle. Right? Don't just
look,
say
at 93 years old, man, he's still going.
Yeah.
That is inspiring.
And I believe longevity very often can be attributed to being active, because too often we see people who become vegetative, unfortunately.
100%. I don't believe in retiring. They say the average lifespan after retirement is 7 years. So don't retire.
Yeah. I hope your son agrees with that, Rev.
I'm transitioning into other things.
Yeah.
He can take that part of it, and I'm moving in. And it's important. I will tell you, Rabbi, that whole idea, because I speak to some clergy, and they've become so identified with their role as a priest, as a minister, as a rabbi, that beyond that they don't have an identity. Mm. And they don't have, you talk about transitioning, they don't have anything to transition to. And it's a very difficult time for them. They feel like a part of them that they've known for so long, dies, and they become divorced.
That's why you have to diversify your life. You have to have interest.
Yes.
So that there's a fallback position, so to speak, that you can do something else. And look, if you're connected to community, you'll always be connected to community. You don't have to withdraw. But you have to select different areas for concentration.
Well, talk about that, Rabbi. Is that a problem amongst
sure.
rabbis?
Sure.
That they their identity is so tied to that role that they don't know who they are beyond that.
Exactly, and they're lost. They truly are lost when they're no longer part of the congregation in their official capacity. They may have titles later on, but it's not the same. People don't call upon you as they did in the past. And you feel like, I've been forgotten or I'm insignificant. And that shouldn't be. You have to really carve out a niche for yourself. Actually, a few niches. So when one is closing, there's another one that's open for you.
Right. Life continues because as we get up in years, we become the aggregate of all of the experience, wisdom, knowledge, understanding, network of relationships, etc., that we've accumulated over time. And, that's the best time to invest in something else, especially people, especially other emerging leaders. I think that's so, so important. Look at what we're doing. Look at what we're doing at the tender age of 55. Look at us. Come on.
Well, I'll let you know when but it's something that we love. And, when you love what you do, they say you don't work a day in your life because you're passion. And I wouldn't want it really any other way. Thank you so much, Rev.
Yeah. Always a pleasure, Rabbi, conversing with you and, of course, our incredible guests. And thank you, our listeners, for tuning in faithfully every Sunday for the conversation with the Rev
and the Rabbi. And thank you, Ava Anderson, who was our producer.
Indeed. Thank you for reminding us of that. She does a great job. Till next time, God bless.